Effort, the intensity of the main powerful rank. You know, sometimes it seems to me that we live in some kind of mirror world, where good things are called bad, kindness is called evil, and so on. Why do I say that? Because Ukrainian generals come out and say some nonsense. I've already shown you one of them. This is the Iron General Zaluzhny, who said that the economy is not needed. To move on to the next general, I'll show you this Zaluzhny again. And let's remember again, if you watch that video, the nonsense he's spouting. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it all the way through.
For Ukraine, I'm telling you for sure, if we trade Ukraine's security, like we did in '94, and then it got worse when the Russian paratroopers came here, if we trade Ukraine's security for anything, for warmth in our homes, or for economic development, or for some political concessions, that's it, take your children and grandchildren and leave. Look, Ukraine's future is only in security.
Security, he says. Again, let me remind you, if you've watched, skip to the next general. If not, I highly recommend you watch Zaluzhny. He says that nothing matters except security. If you don't agree, take your children and leave. Well, I kind of agree with him. I stand with him. Take your children and leave. Nothing good will happen anymore. And from these very words, from these very people, we have, well, this look of power on our faces. You need to put on the glasses of power. You. Put them on. There was no problem. And then the whole problem goes away. That's it. It's gone. So what is he saying next?
Safety comes first. Before choosing our future, we reject everything else. Charlatans claim we need an economy, saying Zaluzhny is a bad economist and that economics should be left to economists. Charlatan.
Charlatans say that Ukraine needs an economy. Well, obviously. Charlatans.
For the next 50 years, Ukraine will only be concerned with security.
Well, anyway, you get the idea. Why am I saying this? Because there's a second general, also a former one. Both of them are former generals, they're not serving, and as it turns out, they're both abroad. I'll show you now. There's a general named Krivonos, I've shown him to you before. Oh, and he resigned from the armed forces of Ukraine in 2021, then came back again in 2022, then he had some kind of conflict with Zelensky. So basically, he hasn't been serving for about 5 years now. He still often appears in studios branding everyone else as draft dodgers. Let's hear what he says. I'll tell you.
We have become a nation of warriors over the past 12 years, and we must raise future generations who will once again be able to defend this country. And there is a huge number of draft dodgers who are like cells inside the country, and they must understand that they won't go anywhere. And even if they run away to Europe, Europe is already on a military footing and preparing for prolonged wars.
Well, that is, the general says that a new generation of defenders is being raised. And if you are a draft dodger who ran away to Europe or didn't run away, you still have to understand that your turn will come too. And especially here he condemns those who ran away to Europe. You know, I happened to check where this General Krivonos is now, and you won't believe it, he's in Europe. This man is not serving in the armed forces of Ukraine, it turns out. He's abroad. He's in Warsaw. We know Sergei Krivonos, a reserve major general of the armed forces of Ukraine, is now living in Warsaw. Well, there are just no words here. Like I said, it's some kind of absurd world just turned upside down. It's not even like the world through the looking glass. If you've seen it, there was a movie back in the 80s called Warlock. And in it, the Warlock sent one of the characters into the mirror world, and there were all sorts of horrors there. It seems to me that it's like a tram without a driver, without a conductor, and all sorts of my characters bursting out from underground and all that. So the street looks normal, but it's actually not normal at all. And that's how the modern world reminds me, especially in some countries, of that mirror world from Warlock. What does Krivonos say? That he had some super important Institute of Global Civil Security based at the Academy of Military Rivers. I mean, of civil security. Well, in short, this general doesn't serve the armed forces of Ukraine, doesn't defend his country, he's dealing with some civilians, he's involved in some kind of security there. Not sure, maybe they have fire extinguishers or something. And at the same time he says that these draft dodgers are bad. Now let's see it further. I don't know if this was written by a real person or artificial intelligence, but it's really strict here. This is Ruslan. Karol turned him into a key conduit of Ukrainian combat experience for Europeans, from training on evacuating under fire to seminars for city mayors about barricades and countering saboteurs. Again, it's very interesting. This general resigned in 2021. before the full-scale invasion, before the full-scale war between Ukraine and Russia, Russia's attack on Ukraine, and before all of this. Then he served there for some time again, but apparently not for very long. And what kind of experience is he sharing there? It's absolutely impossible to understand. But he's arming his allies with first-hand knowledge gained in the trenches of Kramatorsk and Zaluzhny. Krivonos is not just a lecturer, he's a strategist whose forecasts for 2026 about a financial crisis in Russia and the need for preemptive strikes by the armed forces on enemy logistics are already being quoted by analysts from the Baltics to Brussels. Honestly, I haven't heard such forecasts from him. Every time he appears, it's always about those draft dodgers, or now we're going to bomb, or the planes are flying with Zelensky. He just echoes him. What forecasts of his are being published there? But again, A writes that this isn't emigration, it's frontline diplomacy. So the fact he moved to Warsaw, is now safe, has a fireplace at home, and often films himself there, isn't considered emigration. That's frontline diplomacy, it's not the same thing, it's something different, you understand? But if an ordinary person, without money, without hope for the future, is sitting at home and is afraid that the draft office thugs will catch him, who could kill him, break his arms and legs, and of course send him to the front, where he'll be involved in some kind of combat action, one way or another, then he's a draft dodger, he's bad, he needs to understand that. But if you're a combat general since 2021, sitting by the fireplace, telling all sorts of media how great you are, that's called frontline diplomacy. I just feel like giving up trying to comment on this. What's even going on? It's just absurd. What's next? Krivonos' career is like a mosaic of Siberian childhood hunts. What is this depth of Siberian roots? I don't get it. Iraqi deployments, Kiev barricades. He rose from company commander to deputy secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, and later became a major general. Apparently, he's one of those people who became participants in the Maidan, and the social mobility lifted them from rags to riches. Well, I mean, company commander is obviously not a major general. He was discharged from the armed forces in 2021, returned as a volunteer in 2022, and now he's forging Europe's security. But he's forging Europe's security by working in global civil security. What is that? Why is that? I'll have to look into it when I get the chance, of course. Well, and we're being told that Warsaw has become a base where Ukrainian experience becomes a shield for the allies. So you can do that. I could go to some Caribbean islands and also say that now Ukrainian experience becomes a shield for those Caribbean islands. I'll be feasting on shrimp with rice, washing it down with some kind of rice beer too. And say that this way I'm absorbing energy to pass on my not fighting energy, because I've never fought, thank God, and I never will. Well, some other kind of information, I don't know, some kind of radiation actually, some kind of power. Well, basically, it's just absurd. One says, and generals, well, they're generals after all, not ordinary soldiers. They go through some kind of universities. There, I don't know, military school, then higher military academy. There they study economics and strategic thinking, and probably logic as well. I'm not sure if they teach the basics of philosophy there or not, but they can teach you to think logically. And without all this, well, of course it depends on the person, but still, what is this? Frontline diplomacy, that's not draft dodging. If you have money and you move to another country to share some experience for money, or to pretend you're sharing some experience, that's frontline diplomacy. The front is where apparently General Krivonos is, well, okay. What's next? Next, we have another fight with some strategists. These are the TTSKH people, the human catchers, and now all sorts of unpleasant things start happening to them. The regional TTC chief was detained during a money handoff. What was he offering those eligible for military service? A lot, of course. According to the investigation, the official received $10,000 for 3 people liable for military service. By the way, that's not much, it's about $3,000 each. And for this money, he was supposed not to put them through mobilization procedures to them and to remove them from the wanted list. As far as I know, it costs much more, and for a whole head of the regional military enlistment office to deal with removing someone from the register, and for just $3,000, these days the head of the enlistment office wouldn't even get off the couch for $3,000. That's nonsense. Something else is happening. I think he simply didn't share. In total, the investigation documented $15,000 in bribes. For the head of the Enlistment office, $15,000 is just today's restaurant expenses, with the rest left as tips, change, gratuities for the restaurant staff, or maybe to go to some strip club or do something else. $15,000? They really think someone will believe that here? If they had caught an ordinary Enlistment office employee, maybe it would be somewhat believable. But it could have been believable. Still, whatever they show, one has a house worth $200,000. Another has a car worth $100,000, and these are just ordinary Enlistment office employees. And here they're telling us that only 15,000 in bribes have been documented over all this time. Come on, who are you trying to fool? Seriously. It's being prepared, actually. They're telling us that a notice of suspicion is being prepared for receiving bribes. The prosecutor's office will petition for detention. That's great. We always welcome punishment. These characters are not the people who are destroying Ukraine. That's clear. But maybe they should provide more truthful information. Also, there is some information about Skyla, another group of strategists, frontline diplomats, and so on. They destroyed people, threw them into pits, killed them. There was nothing they didn't do. There were 7 non-combat losses right there. And they told all sorts of horror stories. They are now under the operational command of the 1st Corps of the National Guard of Ukraine, Azov. Wonderful. Apparently things will instantly improve there. They also plan to unite the units in the regiment that are now scattered across different parts of the front. In short, our regiment has grown, and Skyly has merged with Azov. Now they're white, fluffy kittens, who of course will show the utmost respect to the newly arrived recruits. They will give them drinks, feed them, pamper them, spoil them, and teach them all the nuances of frontline diplomacy. And sorry, I just got stuck on this frontline diplomacy thing, but it's just insane. Then, okay, that's the first thing. Or maybe the first and second. And the third, or the second and third, however you want, count it however you like. It's that now Kyiv is already threatening Moscow, saying now we're going to send ballistic missiles to Moscow, planes will fly and bomb. Firepoint is preparing ballistic missiles capable of reaching Moscow. We've been hearing this for a year now. They are repainting the missiles from pink back to black, but now they're telling us that this fall they promise to deliver the first actual ballistic missile to the military. This is about some kind of tactical FP7 with a range of 200 kilometers and a warhead of 150 kilograms. Where is it going to fly? Which Moscow is it supposed to reach with a range of 200 kilometers? Honestly, I don't know, but apparently the idea is that it will fly somewhere. Maybe it will make a stopover. It will land, sit for a while, rest, and then fly further. But clearly it's heading for Moscow. Yeah. At the same time, the company is making the long-range FP9 with an 800 kg warhead and a range of up to 855 kilometers. That's enough, and that's what should be flying. This was stated by Irina Terech, the CEO and technical director. Our FP7, says Irina, is already undergoing certification. This requires a certain number of combat launches, according to a special procedure. We will carry out these launches and prove its effectiveness in real combat against the enemy. And after that, it will be ready for contracting. That is probably for sale. I don't know what contracting means. And they say that it's absolutely realistic to have this missile ready as early as this fall. According to some representatives of the AFU, from Firepoint, the ballistic missile has already been flying for several months. Now they are telling us that it has just appeared and will only be contracted in a month, 2, 3, or by the end of the year. In general, there is different information about this. Well, they also have all sorts of different missiles there, but the fact is they want to send all of this to Moscow one way or another. And at the same time, Zelensky suddenly sent new peace proposals to the US. I thought Ukraine was at war with Russia, but it turns out apparently it's with the US. That's why Ukraine's Zelensky is sending his thoughts on peace not to Moscow but to Washington. To Washington, which is currently busy with completely different matters altogether. Cryptocurrency is also involved, but that's a topic for another article. It's extremely interesting. Ukraine has given the United States new proposals regarding the peace process, but their content remains undisclosed. President Volodymyr Zelensky did not reveal them. And he emphasized that Kyiv needs much greater involvement from the American side. Well, that's peanuts, that's what they call involvement. Or maybe it's those patriots. Or maybe there are drawings, blueprints, diagrams of patriots and everything else. We need greater involvement from the American side in the peace plan. I am grateful, says Zelensky, to President Trump's team for wanting to continue. Putin doesn't want to stop this war, and there isn't enough pressure on him right now. Also without some kind of incoherent piece of dough about the text. Well, like dough, yes, it's formless, kind of amorphous. When it rises, something bubbles, swells, and then it falls back down. This is the continuation. Oh, these are the continuations of the speeches of powerful leaders in the media. That's about what this dough is like. It strains and strains, then poof, something happens, it deflates and starts running around. They sit around, it's weapons. Then they get money and weapons again, and they puff up again. With enviable consistency. In my opinion, a few months. Well, but that's about the officials and the semi-officials. Someone like Krivonos, a specialist in frontline diplomacy behind enemy lines in Poland, Warsaw. And now let's look at something else. Let's look at the powerful leaders. We have them, there are many. And first let's talk about the generals, what they did there and their effectiveness. Their effectiveness has been brought to the maximum. Now we will be told about the effect of their actions, which is quite painful.
We did everything we could, but unfortunately it did not yield results.
But it happens. Even the best of them slip up, and even generals sometimes can't handle things. That's life. There is another character, a political officer from the Soviet army days, who suddenly, for some reason, became the Minister of Social Policy. He used to say that Ukrainian pensioners eat a lot, and that's why they are so poor. Judging by him, he is starving, and merging with his wife, and somehow. Fighters of TYY Svetlana Orlovska. Он обсуждает то, что, опять же, Ukrainians walk calmly in the streets. Those who are sitting in Warsaw don't pay attention to this. Or in Monaco, not just in Warsaw, Lida, or even in Spain. There are also powerful leaders there. The ones who call for everyone to be sent to the front, except for themselves.
There are likely people on the street now, so please avoid walking around too casually.
But they should be lying in hospitals or in cemeteries. And then someone would come out and say, that's normal. That's this country. Everyone died. Everyone is happy. Just look at this intellectual face.
That one works at a state-owned strategic enterprise, delivers pizza. No? Well, can you fight about pizza?
Yeah, right. All those clowns from the Quartal 95, they're also exempt. And what, are you upset that they're exempt? No? But the person who delivers pizza, the courier, who is part of the tax system from which, again, the military gets their money, where does that come from? Apparently he is a draft dodger.
One person is exempt due to a certificate listing tuberculosis, lice, and 150 other diseases, yet still goes to the gym to stay healthy. Another discovered a fifth cousin, but doesn't know the cost to pay a border guard to ignore him.
So what about Reva Revani himself? Will he go himself? He's a healthy guy, just skinny. Here's how he says it. Those pensioners eat a lot there. And, as I understand it, he is already a pensioner himself, so he eats little, that's why he is well off. We have to think, well, we're showing the kind of logic that all those generals were lacking. And accordingly, since he's in good shape, he could go and sign a contract at 60 plus and not be a draft dodger. So a draft dodger isn't just someone who doesn't go to the front when they're obligated by law, but also someone who, out of moral duty, should go. Who feels obligated but doesn't go, because. But I don't know why. But Tur, you would ask, why didn't you go to the front? And Frind? Of course, he'll say his kidney is hurt and his liver too. But the liver for obvious reasons, that's a given. And the eyes can see, just like all of them. All those, Pritula, Sternenko, Tommy and the rest. Their eyes never see anything. See, their eyes work. It's like they have Schrodinger's eyes. When it's about the draft notice or in the military office, they can't see. But during the day they can see, but their eyes are just like that, kind of like that. Well, I'm sure Riva is pretty much the same. That's the kind of good people we have living in our country. Definitely not draft dodgers. Definitely don't have that fireplace. The fireplace, that little book with shelves. I don't know if they've ever opened it, no. So what else do we have here? There's also Valkyrie, like in Moscow. Why is she there? I don't know. The ones who need to know her will find out, of course. Well, you know, technology these days, right?
I had one. The mission lasted over 14 hours.
And Shara was dancing in the club for 14 hours while he was on a mission. I can imagine it. It's inside me.
For 2 whole months, they just simply don't come out of there.
Where are you from? Okay, sorry, my sense of humor is kicking in already and...
No one came to visit them. They live without food and water.
І ми просто взяли і ми привезли. Бо коли ти сідаєш за
Steering, Maya. Sending hugs and water concentration. Focus on the road. More soon, Siegfried.
So, you brought them something when you arrived. What did you actually do? It's not clear at all. Did you drop food to them with a drone, or did you come to them on some kind of train, or what did you actually do? Anyway, another a fighter of the invisible front, Valkyrie. Or rather, well, that's how it is, such as the generals, such as the draft dodgers and all the rest. What can you do? Where to? People often ask me in the comments now, so what do you suggest? I won't suggest anything now. Suggestions should have come earlier. Now we just watch things fall apart. The only chance is to get someone who will fight corruption, not draft dodgers, and then things will start to move forward. But for that, you need someone who's really tough, someone who isn't afraid of anyone, someone who has some serious backing. I mean really, so that he fights corruption itself, not people who don't bother anyone and never even thought of bothering anyone. That's the start of the plan, and then we'll see how it goes. But without this, nothing will work out. Without this, things will just keep going the same way. All the yelling about language, about some Nazis' bones being brought back to Ukraine again and all that stuff. Goodbye, everyone.
Like a family in a Scala regiment, like they support me. That's one thing. We support each other, we motivate each other, and we help each other.
I believe that Ukraine is safe at the moment because we are working in all directions. If there were no Scala, there wouldn't be the defense that exists right now.
And when I was abroad, my conscience bothered me that I was sitting safely abroad while someone else was fighting and defending the country. That's why I made the decision. Also, the guys really inspired me.
We'll go through the drill now. Vehicle commander, to the loading angle. Get ready. Fire gunner.
Ну що, заряджаємо? На пам'ять.
Томи!
Скеля, сила!